Tyson Foods is going to temporarily cut the cost of its beef products by 20 or 30%.
And a massive recall of Tyson Foods products sent to schools and other institutions. The USDA says 190,000 pounds of ready-to-eat chicken fritter products could have harmful stuff inside.
Tyson Foods says millions of pounds of meat will disappear as more processing plants close.
In just 18 months, Tyson Foods has shut down 8 plants, cutting nearly 3,000 jobs across Arkansas, Indiana, Missouri, Kansas, and Pennsylvania. A harsh blow to thousands of working families. Trump once declared, the higher the tariff, the more likely companies will build factories here, treating tariffs like a magic bullet to bring jobs home. But reality hit differently. Instead of returning, Tyson packed up and left, abandoning towns with idle lines and dusty now hiring signs. This has been one of the biggest shutdown waves in American food processing. Trump's steep tariffs only made things worse. Over the last year and a half, Tyson axed 8 meat plants, wiping out thousands of jobs. Executives called it operational optimization, but plants in North Little Rock and Corydon shut almost overnight, leaving hundreds suddenly without paychecks. Meanwhile, Trump stood by his tariffs, 25% on imported steel and aluminum, extra duties on foreign meat, even threats of massive auto tariffs. The idea, punish imports, push investment home. But for Tyson, the tariffs drove up feed, freight, and logistics costs. The boardroom's fix? Shut weaker plants, shift production to cheaper sites. What's worse, there was no plan to replace these lines in the U.S. Over 800 workers in Arkansas and Indiana lost jobs overnight, while Trump's Bring Jobs Back promise rang hollow. The gap between campaign talk and reality grew clearer when Tyson spent hundreds of millions on severance and shutdowns, even asking for government help to place laid-off workers. The tariffs didn't force Tyson home, they pushed it away. So were Trump's tariff threats really about saving American jobs, or did they just push companies to cut costs elsewhere? With expenses climbing, big companies chase profits, not patriotism. The results speak for themselves. Thousands unemployed, shuttered plants, and towns left reeling. Next, we'll look closer at how Trump's tariff machine actually works, its shockwaves through the food supply chain, and what's ahead for U.S. meat processing, where bringing jobs back risks becoming a cycle of exporting layoffs. Is protectionism saving jobs or cornering companies into tough choices? For Perry, Georgia, the closure was brutal. Many workers barely had time to open an email titled "Plant Closed" before finding locked gates by afternoon, with no chance to prepare or get the required 60-day WARN notice. Nearly 60% of the 1,300 workers were immigrants relying on paltry wages to feed families. Internal Tyson files show the company delayed notices, buried news in late emails, and dodged unions and media, stripping workers of retraining or new jobs. The fallout came fast. Within 3 weeks, Perry's economic office reported 7 local businesses shut down, and many others lost up to 60% of their revenue. Tens of millions in lost wages gutted a town that once depended on Tyson. Storefronts emptied, streets went quiet, all because the company chose retreat over reinvestment, leaving the heartland in deeper despair. Trump's sky-high tariffs, sold as a way to force companies back to U.S. soil, have often done the opposite. Instead of money flowing into new factories, it drained from old industrial towns. Companies like Tyson Foods protected short-term profits by closing plants and restructuring, but the social cost runs far deeper. This raises an uncomfortable question for the whole Bring Jobs Home promise. Are those new job numbers real, or just a cover for squeezing communities dry before leaving them behind? How many real jobs have these tariffs created? And what lessons should America's factory towns take from this gamble? While Tyson cut costs, CEO Donnie King still took home $12 million last year, about 300 times what an average worker earns, and kept collecting federal farm subsidies. Morningstar reports his 2024 pay hit $12 million with salary, bonuses, and stock. Meanwhile, Sentient Media shows Tyson got at least $250 million in direct subsidies and over $3 billion in USDA supply chain support. On top of that, Tyson spent over $2 million in 2023 lobbying agencies like USDA and OSHA to weaken labor safety rules and slaughterhouse regulations, protecting profits at the expense of workers and the environment. But the real burden landed on small towns. A 2019 Federal Reserve study found Trump's 25% steel and aluminum tariffs cut manufacturing jobs by 0.6% compared to no tariffs. By 2019, industries using metals lost about 75,000 jobs and factory costs jumped 4.1%, pushing prices higher for everyone. As steel, aluminum, and feed costs soared, Tyson passed costs to shoppers or cut jobs to protect margins. So what's really happening? The promise that tariffs would spark new American factories turned into an excuse for ruthless cost-cutting, closing old lines, laying off workers, and chasing cheaper markets abroad. Shareholders and executives reaped short-term gains, while tens of thousands lost stable jobs. Protectionism, far from bringing jobs home, pushed them further away. Companies like Tyson found U.S. costs too high and chose not to build new capacity, but to abandon traditional job hubs. In this light, bring jobs home slogans look like cover for profit plays. When Tyson announced supply chain optimization, hundreds of small farmers got a rude shock. Poultry contracts vanished overnight, leaving flocks with no buyer. Many farms were forced to sell off birds and equipment at fire sale prices just to pay debts. A Missouri independent investigation found many farms repossessed and families wiped out when Tyson cut off inputs without warning. Before communities could recover, a new hit landed in Asia. China, once Boeing's big customer, froze all 737 MAX deliveries in retaliation for a 145% tariff on Chinese goods. At least 37 jets bound for airlines, like Xiamen Airlines, were sent back from Zhoushan Port in April, threatening billions in contracts and about 40,000 aerospace jobs. Each jet, worth over $55 million, means massive losses rippling through factories, export docks, and maintenance crews. As food and aviation chains convulse, the fallout hits the vulnerable first, kids and local diners. The USDA's Farm-to-School program, which sends over $1 billion yearly to schools and food banks, was cut 3 months ago. School kitchens now scramble under soaring food costs. Prices for eggs, poultry, and veggies jump 10 to 15%, forcing schools to shrink meals or raise lunch prices. Costs families must shoulder. From Tyson to Boeing to schools and mom-and-pop diners, it's a painful domino effect. When giant corporations lobby to protect profits, workers, farmers, and kids bear the brunt. Promises fade under rising costs. Instead of growing communities, companies shrink operations, leaving ghost towns, empty farms, and struggling cafeterias in their wake. The moment Trump's threats to jack up tariffs went public, economists mocked it as the taco strategy. Trump often bragged about sky-high duties, but usually backed down once businesses pushed back. On paper, it looked like tough bargaining, 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum, even threats of 2,000% on cars to force jobs back home. But when real backlash hit, the White House scrambled to delay or soften the penalties, creating constant uncertainty for investors. Caught in this climate, Tyson Foods got stuck in the tariff trap. Sudden jumps in input costs forced the meat giant to rethink its strategy. Instead of expanding U.S. plants, Tyson shut down older lines. Between 2024 and 2025, at least 15 processing facilities closed. Many in rural towns where jobs were already scarce and tied to Tyson's supply chain. Trump's tariff logic hit Tyson like a gut punch. Raw material prices spiked. Labor shortages got worse as workers looked elsewhere. Retaliatory tariffs cut off export markets. Facing counter-strikes abroad, domestic plants were left with two options: shut down or move production elsewhere. The result was clear. A policy sold as a job saver triggered wave after wave of cuts. Tyson was just the beginning. Once companies saw tariffs eating into profits, they moved capital abroad or scaled back at home. The promise of jobs quickly gave way to headlines about layoffs and shuttered factories. Under the taco approach, tariffs became less a tool to rebuild industry and more a bargaining chip. As companies packed up, the government tweaked policy to calm the fallout, but local workers were left scrambling when plants closed overnight. This shut down or ship out reality runs counter to the promise of reviving American manufacturing. This blind protectionism hasn't just driven companies like Tyson to scale back. It's hit small farmers, school programs, and entire supply chains once rooted in the U.S. Instead of bringing jobs back, extreme tariffs have forced businesses to cut, lay off, and shift investment to cheaper regions. The Made in USA dream is turning into just a slogan on banners, while towns are stuck with auction signs on idle equipment. Workers can't keep bearing the brunt of these sudden policy swings. They deserve real input and notice before layoffs hit. Only when policy truly puts people first can tariffs balance trade instead of wreaking havoc. Meanwhile, Canada and Mexico have jumped on the chaos, luring U.S. capital and workers seeking better options. Trump's approach has tangled domestic politics and broken global trade links. This retreat may be just a chance competitors need to get ahead. This was just the beginning. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up. Digital Garage has so much more in store.